Good morning, everyone. It's about 11:30 in the morning, beginning of December 2021, and I'm obviously traveling right now. It's a different background. Of course, I'm still wearing the same clothes, still wearing the same pajamas, still no makeup. I'm going to the spa today, later this afternoon, so no reason to put makeup on or wash my hair. I brushed it though, so that's how far we got. Today I wanted to talk about stress and sickness. Now, obviously, when your body's going through something that your nervous system reacts a different way. Being sick usually causes a tremendous amount of tension in the body. Just dealing with pain causes tension in the body. And I think from what I've noticed in these past 6 months, that it can almost reprogram your nervous system. And almost, if you're used to being in pain, or if you feel a sense of uncertainty about when you're going to be in pain next, you feel uncertainty about your future, about your mortality, about how this is going to affect your health for the rest of your life. There's also this, at least for me, this feeling of unpredictability. Like, can I work? Can I book appointments? And when I would book appointments, I would feel the stress. And just try to not think about it, try to keep calm, it was almost to the point sometimes where it was this stress that would sort of send my body into a cycle of pain and discomfort. And so you're in this interesting fight or flight, freeze dynamic with your body. And usually we think about that as being something caused by something external, something outside of us. But when your own body is causing a fight, flight, or freeze reaction within yourself, that's really scary, because there's, other than taking medications or really diligent meditation practice, a really good mindset, constantly telling yourself that this will pass, that this won't last forever, that things will get better, in the back of your head, not really sure if they are. And so your emotions, your mental, what you're dealing with mentally and psychologically are all over the place. And the one thing that I've noticed is that it's actually sort of reprogrammed my nervous system. So my nervous system, even though I'm safe now and I feel healthy, I'm still dealing with body stress. Waking up in the morning and having my sympathetic nervous system just not locked in a full 10, but maybe there's been some mornings where I've woken up and it's my anxiety level has been like a 5 or a 6, and anxiety over nothing. Like, this is not a mental anxiety. I'm not particularly worried about anything right now. I know that I'm going to be okay, but my body is still sort of locked in this. And so I wake up in the morning and I feel the stress in my body, and then of course the stress in your body starts to get translated by your brain and then by your emotions. And it can be a lot of work, and it can be really exhausting. So by the time I would get to work, I would be very tired. I would be tired even thinking about going to work, even though my actual work is not tiring, and even though there's a big part of me that's really thankful and looking forward to going to work. It's like it's almost just too much for my body to do so. So I try and figure out a way to change that. I don't want that to be I don't want this state of being to be like who I am from now on. And so I've been reading a lot of books. Basically, any book I can get on the vagus nerve and polyvagal theory. Also, PTSD. There's an excellent book called The Body Keeps Score by, and I'm going to screw up his name, Bessel van der Volk, I believe. Excellent book. Any of the books on the vagus nerve, if you're feeling like maybe you're sort of stuck in the stress response by having dealt with an illness, or are still dealing with an illness, understanding what the vagus nerve is and what it does and how it can help, how activation of it can help. And it's really, really easy to activate. There's physical exercises, like very, very simple, eye movement with very simple body movement techniques that will activate your vagus nerve. And I might do those in another video. And they take like 2 minutes, EFT is another way to activate your vagus nerve. And EMDR, which is, I believe I'm saying that right, this is the rapid eye movement therapies. You can go to a practitioner, you can do it yourself, but read up. This is a really, really important part of moving on so that your body doesn't get stuck in this way of being. And if you've been dealing with this for a couple of years, it might take you a little bit to get out of this. I've been dealing with this for 6 months, as you know, if you've been listening to any of my videos. But I also had a low-level PTSD before that. So my PTSD in the past, let's say 10, I've been working on it for about 10 years. Successfully in some ways, non-successfully in other ways, depending on what method, whether using self-medication, whether using talk therapy, which I found the talk therapy to not be particularly helpful for PTSD because it kind of just re-triggers, or can re-trigger if you're talking about it, because you can understand what's going on in your life intellectually. Like, we can talk about it, these things happen, and I can talk about things that happened with me or things that I'm going through. I can articulate it in an objective way, but it wasn't actually fixing the PTSD. So when I would become triggered, for me it was, my PTSD was from domestic violence. So my triggers were if I would start dating again, or someone was interested in me, or there was the idea of someone being intimate and close to me, or letting someone into my life, it would trigger a response, and a really, really deep response. And in the beginning, it was just manifesting as fear, as a really, really deep fear. Fear, and then also wanting it at the same time. So it was very, very confusing. Let's say 5 to 10 years ago, it was a very, very confusing way of being, and my body was just locked into fight or flight. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn is another one now that they've come up with another F. So fawn, as I understand it, is more of acquiescing to your situation. So not necessarily freezing, you're not fighting, you're not running, you are cooperating with the threat, whatever that is. Anyways, in the last 5 years up until current, I've started to understand about PTSD and the link. This is just my personal opinion. I'm not a professional, but in my own no pun intended, but like my own gut instinct with how this cancer developed in my life. Obviously there's always environmental or external factors that can switch on the genes, just as far as I understand. But I think one of the most powerful way to switch on genes of cancer, in my opinion, is emotions. The power of emotions, or the getting locked into a certain way of viewing the world, or viewing yourself, or viewing your own personal reality. So I have some left. That's the longest way to say I had some PTSD left over from that. And when the physical aspect in these last 6 months, and it's actually been longer than that, I've been really stressed with the IBS for a long time. And so stress and IBS, it's no secret that those two go together. But mine was just next level. So instead of developing something like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, I developed cancer, and my bowels just stopped working. And if you are in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, your nervous system, your digestion sort of goes offline. Like, you have more important things to deal with. Like, you need energy to run, you need, to think quickly. It's not a time for rest and digest. And that's where the vagus nerve comes in. The vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve complex is when that's activated, that's when your body can rest, it can digest, repair. Make sure I'm saying this right. The attributes in the functions in your body that repair your body can come online, and that's when you heal. It's when your body heals itself. That's when you get good sleep. That's when you can create close relationships with people, connections. That's when your creativity, your passion, you can think about the future. You can dream again. What else? Creativity is definitely a big one. But the digest, your assimilation, you have to be in a relaxed state to fully assimilate your life, and then also the food that you put into your body. And so it wasn't any surprise to me when I found out that I had colon cancer, because I knew it was exactly related to the amount of stress. And I don't necessarily like to use the word stress, because I think the word has been watered down, and it's something that we just think, oh, it's stressful, it's not a big deal. Well, it's actually very much a big deal. And sustained stress, a sustained state of having your nervous system locked in sympathetic nervous system mode, if that's the correct terminology. Like I said, I'm not an expert. This is not something that I've studied the nervous system. I do know quite a bit of anatomy and physiology just from what I do for a living, but then also just from my endless research that I've been doing these last 6 months in particular, but then also just my general knowledge before that. Hopefully this will spark something. Really recognizing that what's happening to your body isn't just happening to your body, that your stress response, your ability to switch back and forth between parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system function, how you can do that. Some people move back and forth between those two very easily. Animals typically do. You can watch them, and my dog got attacked a week or so ago, And, it was fairly traumatic. He's fine. He got a couple lacerations, but he's healed up now. But the first thing he did is when they got the dog off of him, he literally shook it off. He just did a big body shake, and then he was right back to being friendly, and he didn't stay in fear mode. He was like, he shook it off, and then he actually went over and said hi to the people who own the other dog, and you can tell he was like a little bit freaked out, but not that big of a deal, and he wasn't really bleeding, and he kind of wanted to keep walking. So we kept walking, and I, of course, kept an eye on him, and like I said, he wasn't bleeding much. He had quite a laceration, but he just shook it off, and that's an animal's way of shaking off that sympathetic nervous system, that being attacked or something traumatic happens to you. And unfortunately, we don't do that as well. But it's funny, it makes me think of like Taylor Swift's song of, shake it off, like quite literally shake it off. And I think, and I don't even know how to do this, but I feel like there has to be something that we can do as human beings to sort of shake off the fear, rather than ruminating about it, or continuing to talk about it and to tell stories about it and to create a narrative about it that sort of keeps you in that state of fear. You're not shaking it off, and we can hang on to that for decades. And if you've gone through anything as a child and it's still affecting you as an adult, you haven't shaken it off, however you want to say that. I'm getting off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I just wanted to get on and bring up the importance of listening to your body. Not even that, it's beyond that. To start learning about your body. We're given this beautiful vessel to live our lives in, and we know not that much about it. Like, even the experts don't know that much about it. But your body knows. Your body knows how to heal itself, and your intuition, guidance, information. Now we live in a time now where you have access to any and all information. We also have access to bad information, but your gut knows the difference. And it's a process. There might be a time in your life when you go through this therapy, and then you'll switch to another therapy, or choose to do a different route, spiritual, or mental. There's ways to retrain your brain. There's so much information out there. There's so much information, and it's finding that information that's going to help you, and not being afraid of that. So I'm going to go ahead and change this just a little bit. But don't just rely on your doctors. Don't just rely on stories that people tell you. Get your own information. Ignorance really is a choice. And if you choose ignorance, that's totally fine. If you choose to just go one-dimensional about your health, then that's absolutely fine, but also know that that's a choice, and that you can learn whatever you want, and take this opportunity to learn about your body and to really get to know it. Also learn about your medications that you're taking. That's something I did not do in the beginning. I found that Googling medications, I'll find a wide variety of types of information, especially on like the narcotics, pain meds, things like that. There's always the big warning of addiction. I've actually gotten that warning from friends of mine, people telling me, especially with Oxy, people telling me to be very careful with that stuff, that they know people that have ruined their life over it. That was not an issue for me, although I did have some body addiction to it. It wasn't a drug that appealed to me, other than just to handle the pain that I was going through and to use it temporarily. There's other anti-anxiety, benzodiazepines. You can find people that really, really have had a tough time with it, with the addiction aspect of it. And then you'll find other people that were just totally okay with it, you know. I seem to be okay with it, although if I don't have it, my body will go into like spasm. It's not a seizure, it's like a severe what's the word? It's not spasms, but we'll call it spasms for now. My body will go into a spasm. So I know to get off of it really, really easily, very, very gently. And it'll probably take me a few months to do that. But for now, I'm taking it, and it is turning down the level, you know, that stress that I talked about when I wake up in the morning. It is turning down the volume on that stress, and that's what's needed at the moment for me. Then that's my choice, because I know about it. And like I said, not an expert. This is not advice, but make sure you are educated about the medications that you're taking, and if you're afraid or have some concerns about becoming addicted, just make sure that you're really, really careful with it. If that's not a concern for you, then you know, medications have really, they've helped me get through this. There was definitely a moment in time when I was overprescribed. I was, you know, I had 3 different, you know, hardcore pain medications, and I needed them at the time. That was short-lived, fortunately. Anyways, I didn't want to talk about medications. I just wanted to talk about, you know, like I said, take this opportunity to learn about your body. It's absolutely fascinating. And, you know, for me, I've spent my career learning about the body. I've worked on probably 20,000 people in my career, and, you know, I've probably 15, I'm saying probably about 18. And I know a lot about the body, and this was just a whole, even with the knowledge base that I had, this was a whole new, very fascinating study of my own body. And what it needed, what it's asking for. Yeah. Well, I think that's all I have for today. I just wanted to put something up, you know, just to chat, to get it off my chest, you know, and sort of move on to the next thing. You know, these past couple of weeks for me have been about really looking at my body from the nervous system point of view, and realizing how important your nervous system is to your ability to assimilate food, your ability to nourish yourself, your ability to be creative, to form connections, to feel loved, to feel safe. You know, we think of those as mental constructs, but your nervous system has a lot to do with how you feel in those areas, and how safe you feel in your body, and how safe you feel in the world. So that's it for me. I think I'm going to leave it right there. I have a spa appointment this afternoon, like I said. So, and then I'm doing some massages, receiving some massages later this week, and doing some self-care, which feels really good. So I'm not in panic mode anymore. I'm actually at the point now where I can receive self-care again. on a physical level. So I wish you guys all the best. If you're going through something, just know that there's help. There's help within you, and then there's help without you. Or there's help within you, there's help outside of you. There's help available to you. All right, take care.